Alright, first things first, the video may look a bit weird because it is nighttime, so I'm relying on a ring light here. But it's late because I just got back from a League Cup, and it's late because I played very long because I made it all the way to top cut. And not only that, I made it to 4th place with none other than Gardevoir. That's right, Gardevoir is back, baby, especially now with Prismatic Evolutions legal. I made a call, I said, you know what, especially after seeing Heatran win the regionals just last weekend, I'm like, it's a sign, Gardevoir is the play. Now, I don't know if it's because of the new format, or if it's because I got lucky with matchups, or maybe just I'm that good at the deck. It felt really good to play Gardevoir in the slower format now today. First though, let's go over the deck list. For the most part, it's pretty standard, although there are some nice, interesting things I want to point out. So, first things first, 2 Gardevoirs, 4 Curliers, 4 Ralts. That's pretty standard. I will say I did have this one extra Ralt that has the memory skip. 1, because I don't have another 78 free Ralts, and 2, sometimes that memory skip can maybe, help out. If you go up against a Charizard and they're somehow set up, you can just memory skip, say that they can't use Burning Darkness, and then they need to force out a switch or something like that, wasting energy, by retreating and whatnot. And then you have, of course, Screamtail, Fluttermane, my goodness. So in the past, I would always play Klefki, right? Because Klefki was great. You put in the active and it shuts down any of their basics, which was a big threat. Teal Mask, Ogerpon, Squawkabilly, Radiant Greninja, whatnot. I came to the realization that, okay, Klefki, pretty good at locking down the abilities. That's all it does though. It has like no other purpose. Like its attack does nothing. I mean, it discards an item or a tool card, but whatever. Fluttermane shuts down an ability. Yes, only the active, but But also it can do damage with 90 damage to the main and ping 20 onto the bench, and 20 damage or 22 damage counters specifically fixes so much math. It is such a very important number. You can put 2 damage counters on a Fezandipity or a Teal Mask Ogerpon such that they are in range for a Gardevoir KO. This is very important. Also, Fluttermane just came in super clutch in general today. You'll see why in just a second. And then you've got your classic Drifloon, 2 Monkey Doors, of course, and then the star of the show, Birdew. You know what it does. We have a Radiant Greninja. Spiritomb. I had a Spiritomb because I expected there to be maybe 1 or 2 Lugias. That Regigigas, pretty scary. And then I was still like super scared of potential Regidrago, so the last Pokemon was a Manaphy. Honestly, I did not bench it down once a single time the entire day. This could have been a different card. This should have been a different card. I didn't want to take that risk. I think obviously everyone that was playing Regidrago knew Birdew was going to be a thing, so they didn't bother bringing it. I'd rather be safe than sorry, But that is the Pokemon. On to the supporters. We have, spoilers over there, classic 4 Ionos, 3 Arvins, 2 Turos, and 1 Boss. So, firstly, 3 Arvins instead of 4. Secret Box can kind of act like an Arvin. It can get an item and a tool card. And 2 Turo scenarios. Normally, in the past, you would use to play 1. Again, Henry Child played 2. But my reasoning as well is that so often, you would have not all your energies in the discard pile. You would have your Drifloon fully loaded with energy. You get a knockout. And then they would just boss in or counter catcher in the Gardevoir and have it just sit in the active. And you're like, well, I don't have any energy to attach to it. I can't get it out of the active. Professor Turo scenario helps you if they're trying to like energy lock you. And then a single boss's order. Speaking of now Secret Box, I know it's up in the air, Secret Box versus Unfair Stamp. For me, Unfair Stamp, even if you play it, they're gonna have Fezandipity, they're gonna have Professor's Research, they're gonna have Radiant Greninja, they're gonna have Teal Moss Ogerpon, they're gonna draw out of it, right? And also, it's reliant on them getting a KO, so Secret Box is almost always gonna be playable. Whether you start with it, whether you end with it, you can always use Secret Box. And if you really do want to get the disruption from an Unfair Stamp, you can Secret Box for an Iono. But then you might be saying, well, if you waste a supporter on Iono, then you can't use a boss's order, which you could with an Unfair Stamp. Well, Secret Box, remember, you can just grab a counter catcher as well. One of the greatest things that I like about Gardevoir is how versatile it is, and Secret Box helps you, with that versatility. Items are pretty standard Secret Box. 4 Buddy Buddies, 2 Ultra Balls, 2 Earthen Vessels, 2 Counter Catchers, 2 Night Stretchers, a Super Rod, 1 Nest Ball, 1 Hisuian Heavy Ball to find the Greninja somewhere. Either it's in the deck or in the prizes. That works out both ways. 2 Bravery Charms, 1 TM Evo. So again, Henry Childless played 2 TM Evos and 1 Bravery Charm. For me, 1 Bravery Charm seemed really, really risky. Like if it's prize, you don't get it. And if they get knocked out once, then you don't have it anymore. And my thought process was, now that we have Birdew, games are going to be slower. I'm not going to be as reliant on TM Evoing because now I'll be spending my turns maybe using Itchy Pollen instead. So I switched out one of the Evos for another charm. And then we have Artisan and Moonlitil. Artisan, of course, just gets you your basics. Moonlitil, so clutch for Dragapult, and also just an extra way to discard an energy. Speaking of, 3 Darkness and your standard 7 Psychic Energy. On to the games. Round 1, I didn't know what I was playing up against, but we ended up going up against an Archaludon. And initially I was like, oh no, that's not really ideal, right? It's a stage 1 deck. It's not really that reliant on items and whatnot. And he went first, and he was able to get on Jamming Tower, turn 1. So I can't TM Evo, I can't Bravery Charm if that ever becomes a possibility. So I was able to eventually, you know, get down some Raltsers and then put down a Badoo. And then I was like, I'll Itchy Pollen your Duraludon for 10. And then it's like, okay, cool. And then I didn't put any damage counters on. I was like, oh, 10 damage. It's like, oh, actually, Duraludon is resistant to grass. So I'm like, oh, cool, I'm not doing any damage. And then I realized as well, Duraludon, for a single energy, can just smack for 30 and KO Badoo. So game 1 was like, oh no, this is very dangerous. And then because of the jamming tower and I couldn't bump it, I was just stuck with Ralts and then eventually like, you know, a Curlier if I got lucky, and he would just constantly have a boss. I was so far behind that I was like, okay, let's go game 2. Same thing again. I was able to, you know, claw back a little bit. So actually, this is where Fluttermane comes in super clutch. So he's KOing me, he's going down to his prize cards, he's like getting low. Eventually, I am able to get out a Monkey Dory, a Gardevoir, and a Fluttermane. And now the important thing is, he has evolved 2 of his Archaludons, right? And now because of Fluttermane, I'm able to use a counter catcher to put in his Duraludon. This is important because now, if he were to try and evolve it while it's in the active, he does not get that energy acceleration. So at this point, I kind of have him like stuck, right? He has 2 Archaludons, both with like full energy, but they're on the back line there. The issue was, I had 1 Monkey Dory. I needed another one. The issue is because I only had 1 Monkey Dory and I had already, like, I didn't see this line of opportunity of locking them with Fluttermane. I had another monkey in the discard pile and I had used both stretches and the super rod. So I couldn't you know, throw around extra damage. I don't know if it would have mattered because eventually he did end up just having a scoop up Cyclone to just pick it up, put in the Duraludon and then just smack me across the face. But I was okay with that. You know, first game of the day, and the guy was just a genuinely good player, so I was like, all right, you know what? Fair enough. I'll take my loss. It's only the first loss, and it was the only loss. Well, until I ended up losing in the quarters. But after that, though, round 2, I went up against a very, I guess, rogue deck, a Heatran Basculegion deck with Metang as an energy accelerator. So essentially, Metang, you look at the top 4 cards, you can attach any energy there onto a Pokemon. Heatran, you discard all energy from it. It does 50 damage per energy discarded that way. Basculegion, it attacks for free. It does 20 damage for each energy in the discard pile, and then it puts them back into the deck, and they're all 1 prizes. However, here's the thing. The Fluttermane came in so clutch, as well as the Monkey Dory, because the Basculin has 50 HP. Hex Hurl does 90 to the active, 20 onto a bench, and then Monkey Dory can move 30. So I was constantly being able to set up these KOs on the Basculin. And also, the Metangs have 100 HP. Very easy to Monkey Dory plus Hexhole. And also, Screamtail also snipes them very easily. It does not take a lot of damage to do so. And that's what I was doing. And also, the sort of like the gotcha with Heatran is that if you try and attack the Heatran, you get burned. But that's its ability. Fluttermane does not get burned. So I can just freely swing. So yeah, thanks to the Monkey Dory moving damage across, thanks to Fluttermane also being able to move 20, and then Screamtail being able to snipe, it was just very easy. Just constantly target down the Metangs, target down the energy accelerators, and then that's it. But yeah, that was very favorite for me, just because of the fact that I could bench snipe. The Heatran Basculegion matchup was very nice. Round 3 though, boy oh boy, this is where things got serious because I went up against a Dragapult player, and I was like, oh, this is like a pretty serious matchup because I imagine this is going to be a matchup that I'm going to have to learn well on into the future now, once rotation hits as well. Here's the thing. We both had, well, we didn't start with Badoo, but like he went first, he got a Badoo out, obviously put it in the active, he couldn't attack. My turn came around, I put a Badoo out, put it in the active, and then I Itchy Polled him, he Itchy Pollens me back, and the first, honestly, like 15 minutes of the round was us just Itchy Pollening each other, trying to see if we could get out our Raltsers and our Dreepies and whatnot. I was eventually able to get into a scenario where I had, let's see, this setup here. And it was my turn still, and I was like, you know what? I think it's time to go, because he also had a Dreepy with a Sparkling Crystal and an energy on it, and I think it was also, oh no, it was a Dracloak, so it was ready to attack if he had like Dragapult from hand. And I was like, he might have it anyway, so instead of trying to item lock him again, let me just go on the gas. Let me TM Evo and get all 4 of my Curliers out. No item lock. He, of course, got into his Dragapult, took out my Badoo, took out, and then took out Badoo by itself, but then he did the thing where he places like 20, 20, 20, spreading it out so that on the following turn he can place the full 60 and KO a Curlier. However, thankfully, I was able to have a Monkey Dory on the bench, and I was able to get down a Drifloon with a Bravery Charm. I think it was because I played a secret box that I had all of these on hand, and most importantly of all, I had a Moonlit Hill, which again, you discard 1 Psychic Energy and you heal up 30 damage from all of your Pokemon, which is so clutch in the Dragapult matchup, so that all of that Phantom Dive damage is gone. Here was the issue. I was able to get a Gardevoir as well, but this was, again, one of my issues with Gardevoir is that you have the Drifloon, you have the Bravery Charm, you have the Gardevoir. Do you have the 5 energy in the discard pile? And I was very concerned because I wasn't too sure if I did. I had like 4 energy, and on my very last refinement, I think I drew the 5th energy. So I was able to, you know, attach to Gardevoir, retreat to get it into the discard, get all 5 energy onto the Drifloon, Monkey Dory some of the damage onto the Dragapult, and then KO it, which was very important, you know, to keep myself in the race, not letting him go for another KO by himself. All this time, by the way, remember, he retreated his Badoo so he could attack with his Dragapult. So his Badoo is still on the bench. This is very important. This is a free KO at any point thanks to Monkey Dory. Very relevant in a second here. So I go down to 4 prize cards. He, of course, gets a return KO. I put up the Gardevoir. I think I pull in the Pheasantipity because here's the thing as well. I think, if I remember correctly, for some or other reason, I knew that I was not going to be able to KO a Dragapult again because I think either another Bravery Charm was in the prize or something like that. So this is when I went, okay, I got my 1 KO on Dragapult. I'm happy. Now I need to find ways to get the other 4 prize cards. So thankfully, I was able to pull up a Pheasantipity and go for a KO on that as well. So then down to 2 prize cards. Of course, he puts up the Dragapult once again. He does some shenanigans. He gets some knockouts. He gets very close, you know, to winning as well. He goes down to 2 or 3 prize cards left. But because of that earlier stage where I had so many Curliers, I also had a Radiant Greninja after this as well. It got to a point where I needed like 1 card to win because I knew I could always Monkey Dory the Badoo, but I still needed 1 more prize card. And obviously, I'm not going to get the KO on the Dragapult, but I think I remember I had literally 4 cards left in the deck, and then I played an Iono or something like that. And one of those cards, with a Radiant Greninja, by the way, one of those cards was a boss, one of those cards was an energy. So I had already used up like most of the Curliers. So I had 1 concealed cards left. After I picked up my 2 cards, I saw I didn't draw it, but I had the energy. So I was like, okay, energy with concealed cards to pick up the counter catcher, and then, you know, pull up something else random and then go for game there. But like that first game, that was such a wild ride because again, the first 15 minutes was us just itchy pollinating, trying to get out these cards and stuff like that. And then once we did get on the gas, it was such a mind battle of, you know, him trying to figure out how to place these damage counters, me stressing because I didn't know if I was able to get the Drifloon out with the Bravery Charm and all the 5 energy, and then, you know, having to figure out how do I get the other KOs, right? After I take out the first Dragapult and then the Pheasantipity, how do I get rid of this, like get my next 2 prizes? Game 2, however, because we took so long, I won't, you know, spoil I won't go into too much detail, but it was very similar. You know, Moonlit Hill saved me a lot of the damage. Drifloon with a Bravery Charm got me 1 KO against the Dragapult, but it couldn't get me the rest. At some point, I had 3 prizes, and I had Radiant Greninja, Monkey Dory with an energy, of course, and I had a Curlier. I also had a Gardevoir. I can't remember like how we ended up into this, but I had 3 prizes left. He had 2 prizes left in this exact scenario, but we were on turns. I was on turn 1. He was gonna go for his final turn after me. He had 2 prize cards left. I had 3, and there was damage on this Curlier. I think there was like 20 on the Curlier, 20 on the Monkey, and then also like 20 on the Radiant Greninja. And he had a Pheasantipity on the bench. And then this is where I kind of felt scummy about it, but to be fair, it was also like, it was valid. It was something that I had to do. But what I did was, obviously his Dragapult was just in the active because it just like KO'd something and something else. That's why I put the Gardevoir up. And so what I did was I played a counter catcher to pull up the Pheasantipity into the active. And then I used a Professor Turo to pick up this Curlier, because again, he also had like a Dusclops on the bench, or a Duskull, which could easily become a Dusclops. So I played a Professor Turo scenario to pick up this Curlier. I wanted no liability. So this is just a good common theme. It's going to come up later on as well. But when you're playing, it's easy to get focused on how do I win? How do I get my prize cards? How do I, you know, win? Sometimes it's very important to figure out how does my opponent win and how do I prevent that from happening? So because I saw this as a, you know, very much a threat, even if I did have Monkey Dory to move the damage off of this, he could easily go for a Dusclops to do 50 damage here, or a Phantom Dive as well. So here's what I did. I played a Turo for turn to pick up Curlier. Now remember, Serendipity is still in the active, and this is where it becomes incredibly important. In theory, some people might think, oh, the Serendipity is in the active. You know, I can attach 3 to Gardevoir, move some of the damage with Monkey Dory onto it, and then knock it out with Miracle Force. I almost did that, but then I realized, no, I'm just going to leave the Serendipity in the active, and I'm just going to pass as is with this board state. And that was absolutely the 100% correct play. Because if I did KO the Serendipity, yes, I get 2 prize cards, but he can very easily, again, get a counter KO on the next turn here. Because I didn't know at the time, obviously, but I was accounting for it. He had a boss's order in hand, and he also had a Dusclops. So all he would have had to do is boss's order, put up the Radiant Greninja, pop the Dusclops on the Monkey Dory, knock this out with Dragapult, put 6 damage counters on Monkey Dory. He gets his 2 prize cards. But because Serendipity was in the active, he needed an energy to retreat. And he did not have that in hand. So he had boss, but he couldn't afford to play the boss because he needed to Iono for another, chance at an energy. And even then, also, because I didn't KO the Serendipity, he could have had a Night Stretcher to bring it back. He could have also had a Counter Catcher active again. I admitted, I was like, sorry, this is kind of scummy, It's essentially, because we were on turns, and I knew this was his last turn, I was like, you don't have game. So I'm just gonna do this, make it impossible for you to win, and then I'm just gonna pass when it comes back to my turn. Again, moral of the story, know your own victory, know your own win conditions, and also know your opponent's win conditions and how to stop them from getting that. But all right, round 4, we go up against Raging Bolt. Great matchup for me. I have 1 prizes, they have 2 prizes. And again, this is the same guy that I played a couple of weeks back. And this is, again, I don't want to be mean, but some players, they just see a chance to KO and they go for it. And once again, that is a big mistake because, again, I had a Badil or something in the active, or I had some random 1 prizer. He sees it as an easy KO, he knocks it out, and I went, okay, cool, thank you. I now have Gardevoir, I have the Monkey Dory. Because I am now 1 prize card behind, I can play a Counter Catcher, pull up your Ogerpon, charge up the Gardevoir, and then knock it out with the Monkey Dory plus the Miracle Force. And now, if you want to, get a return KO, you need like 6 or 7 energy for the Raging Bolts. And even if you do have that much, I have another Curlier on the bench that I can evolve into a Gardevoir again. And I don't think that you can chain together 7 energy per turn every turn. So honestly, that was a pretty good game for me. I won both games. If you're keeping track at this point, we have 3 wins, 1 loss. Round 5, the last round of Swiss, I go up against my very good friend who is playing Miraidon. He is 3 wins, 1 tie. And so we were like, bro, you're my friend, we're both friends. Let's ID. I'm pretty sure we both make it into top 8. And we did ID, and we did both make it into top 8. I was in 5th place, he was in 1st place. And so I played against the 4th place player. And I didn't know what he was playing, so I asked around and people were saying, oh, he's playing Okidogi. And I was like, I have no idea what that deck is. Basic Okidogi with non-EX version, 1 prizer, with the Adrena Power ability, where if it has a Darkness Energy, it gets plus 100 HP, its attack does 100 more, and if you play a Luminous Energy, it counts for the cost of the attack, which is a fighting, and then also the ability. So we start off, and I'm like, oh damn, I don't know, I'm not sure how I can deal with this deck, right? It has a lot of HP and stuff like that. And then while I'm scrolling through, or while I'm looking through my cards as I play an Artisan, I'm like, wait a minute, the reason why it has that extra HP and it has that extra damage is because of its ability. Fluttermane shuts that down completely. So I was like, oh, don't I just auto win with this? And for the most part, I was auto winning with this. I had my Gardevoir, my Curlier, my double monkeys as well. Okidogi, instead of being a 230 HP, swinging for 170 per hit, it is 130 HP only, swings for 70 only, and Fluttermane hits it for weakness as well. So what was initially going to be something super scary became basically a free win, because I could then have a Bravery Charm on it, and he only does 70 damage per turn if he gets an attack off, so I can easily move that with Monkey Dory. I will say the one very cool thing that happened was his ace spec of choice was Legacy Energy, and obviously when the Okidogis are on the bench, they still have their abilities, so they still have 230 HP. It's only when they're in the active. And I was concerned, how do I get rid of this Okidogi with the Legacy Energy, which only would give me no prizes essentially. Now thankfully, again, because Fluttermane not only does damage to the active, but throws two damage counters on the board, this Okidogi with Luminous Energy had some damage counters on it. I think it had 50 damage on it already. And it was in the active, so it only had 130 HP. And so I was very happy with this play. But I was able to double Monkey Dory, move 60 on it, and then I played a Turo Scenario to pick up the Monkey Dory. The energy goes into the discard pile. I re-bench the Monkey Dory, which is now, technically speaking, a new Pokemon, so it hasn't used its ability yet. And then I could play a Night Stretcher to get back the energy, reattach, reuse the ability to put down another 20, and then knock out the Okidogi with a luminous energy. And since it wasn't by an attack, I still got my prize card. But that was the quarterfinals, by the way. Yeah, so that was top cut quarterfinals. Then it was bound to happen eventually. I got matched up with that same friend of mine that we ID'd against. And he was playing Miraidon. Miraidon. One of the great things about Gardevoir is that it is a single prizer deck that can do a lot of damage. But Iron Hands just says MP very much. And the worst part is game 1, I prized both of my Gardevoirs. So that was just pretty much an instant scoop. Like, there's nothing I could do. There's no way I could win. There's no way I can get the Gardevoir out of the prize cards. So it was just an instant loss. Game 2 comes around though. Much better. I'm so actually happy with how that game went. Unfortunately though, again, in my prize cards was a counter catcher. Both of my counter catchers, and if you're not surprised, I was very much playing from behind, and also my technical machine Evolution. And sadly, I do not play a rare candy. Like, even after this, the friend came up to me and was like, yo, so I'm assuming you don't play rare candy. I'm like, yeah, my thought process was that the games are slow enough that I can have time to evolve into the Curliers and the Gardevoirs, but that was not the case. So honestly, at the, my only out, however, was, yes, Miraidon can do a lot of damage to the basics and go for MP very much and stuff like that, but they have quite a bit of trouble hitting those big numbers, unless you have Raichu. So thankfully though, I had like all 6 prize cards. He only had a couple left. I think he had 2, and I just kept on Ionoing him. But eventually I got to a point where I finally had my Gardevoir out and about and ready to go with the Monkey and whatnot. And so once I was able to get the Gardevoir out, I was like, okay, again, figure out what the opponent can do to win and take that out. So I got Gardevoir out and I immediately went boss up the Raichu, because that's the only thing that can KO Gardevoir. Monkey Dory the damage across, KO with Gardevoir, take 2 prize cards, cool, we're chilling. And then I think off of the prize cards, I pulled up one of the counter catchers, right? 4 prize cards left. And remember, he's been Iono, so he doesn't have a lot of cards in hand. So the best he can do is put up the Iron Hands again, and then just, arm press me to do 160 damage, which is important because that sets up a KO on the following turn. And also the Iron Hands had a Bravery Charm. But thankfully, again, I can just go counter catcher the Miraidon. And thankfully, I was able to get out another Gardevoir to retreat out the damaged one, which had a lot of damage on it. But before I counter catchered and KO'd his something else, it was like a Miraidon. On his turn beforehand, he had the full bench, by the way, when he went for that Iron Hand play. He had a full bench and he played an Arven. From that Arven, he got an Ultra Ball and just that. That is huge alarm bells. Again, look at what your opponent has. How do they go for game? I know Miraidon plays 3 or 4 bosses and a Lumineon. Once I saw he had Ultra Ball in hand, I knew if I KO this Pokemon, anything, a Miraidon or whatever, he has a bench slot open, he can Ultra Ball for Lumineon, play it down, boss up a Monkey Dory, and then MP very much again. So, thankfully, I think I discarded a Spiritomb earlier for a Curlier. I just cheekily went, let me quickly go for a Night Stretcher that I had in hand. And then I just slapped it down on the bench there. Very unassuming. And then I KO'd his Miraidon. I drew 2 more cards. He draws his top deck is Lumineon. And instantly, because obviously he knows the line, he instantly slaps down Lumineon, goes for his deck, and I go, whoa. I have Spiritomb. I played Spiritomb specifically for this. And he goes, oh no. So he just benched down a Lumineon for nothing. And again, I knew his other card in hand was an Ultra Ball and 2 dead cards that he didn't play the previous turn. So he just, again, just smacked my Gardevoir with damage, not getting a KO, which meant that on the following turn, I could then counter catcher again, because I think he had 1 prize card left or something like that. But I was very happy that I clawed that back from being down 6-2 to just, bossing up some randoms, or putting up the Gardevoir. He can't KO it. I'm denying him his bosses and stuff like that. And Iron Bundle was in the discard pile, so he couldn't use that to, switch something out as well. But then game 3, game 3 could have been good, could have been close, but I think I misplayed a bit. My main thought process was I'm so scared of the MP very much and stuff like that. So I was able to get down my Raltsers on turn 1. He decided to go second, of course, so he could go for an easy amp early on. I put Screamtail in the active as a starting Pokemon. I had an Arven, but I didn't, because I was starting, I couldn't play it, and Ralts as well. And then my thought process was I don't want him to use MP very much. At best, I want him to arm press. At least he only gets 1 prize card then. So what I did was I attached a Bravery Charm to Screamtail. I'm like, okay, he can't get 2 prize cards. However, every single turn, he would just boss his order, KO Ralts. And again, I'm not playing any rare candy, so I would just keep putting Screamtail up again. I would be able to bench down more Raltsers, But then again, he would just boss up again, KO and whatnot. But eventually it got to a point where I did have my 2 Ralses down. I had Screamtail in the active, I had an energy on it, and I had a Radiant Greninja, and then I used Secret Box to get everything else I needed. You know, I had an Iona to disrupt his hand, and I grabbed Team Evo and everything, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to Team Evo these 2 Ralses, and then from there, it'll be the same thing. Once I can get a Gardevoir established, and I can just like hold against him, you know. But then I realized this Screamtail has had a Bravery Charm the entire time. I cannot attach a Technical Machine evolution to it. I'm kind of screwed. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just pass. And then he did KO the Screamtail eventually. And unfortunately, because he was amping my Ralses and KOing my Screamtail, I was playing from very, very far behind. But I was able to, again, try and counter something up. So I counter-captured his Lumineon into the active. I had a Monkey Dory with the TM Evo and the energy. And that is when I went and I evolved my Ralses. Again, my thought process was, he needs to find a way to get his Lumineon out of the active. I don't see a way. He had a Magnemite, which could eventually evolve into Magneton, but that cannot attach energy to Lumineon, and he didn't have any energy in the discard pile anyway, so I was banking on him having Lumineon stuck in the active. But then, I mean, I guess I didn't know this interaction. He evolves into his Magneton anyway. He pops it. I guess even though he doesn't have energy, he can still pop it himself. I get a prize card. Importantly, it frees up a bench space for him. He puts down a Nest Ball, gets Latias, free retreat, in comes Iron Hands again, and goes, thank you very much, to take the knockout. Again, it's a bit unfortunate. It was, you know, a very bad matchup. The whole point about Gardevoir is that you have single prize attackers. It kind of defeats the purpose when you have Iron Hands that can just take 2 anyway. But at the end of the day, I'm still happy with what I played. Obviously, no one was playing Charizard because of Bidoof. A lot of Dragapult, so that's why I'm happy that I played the Moonlit Hill. And yeah, I'm probably gonna stick with the Gardevoir for the next couple of cups. So there's no cup next week, but there is one on Valentine's weekend. Ooh. But yeah, that was the first League Cup with actual Prismatic Evolutions and a return to Gardevoir. Again, I don't know if I'll play it again next League Cup in 2 weeks' time. I probably will. It felt so good today. But otherwise though, thank you all for watching. Hopefully you're having luck with your own decks out there in the new Bidoof format. And until next time, bye-bye!